There is a creature at the bottom of the ocean that science has never caught, never studied, and never fully seen. We only know it exists because of a few seconds of grainy deep-sea camera footage. It doesn't swim, it doesn't chase, it just hangs in total darkness, completely motionless, with arms that trail 20 feet below it like it's waiting for something. Nobody knows what it's waiting for. Nobody knows how big it actually gets. And the terrifying part? That thing is a squid, the same basic animal you've seen in a fish tank or on a restaurant menu. So what exactly happens to squids the deeper you push them into the ocean? Because the answer gets progressively more disturbing the further down you go. Start at the top. The epipelagic zone, the sunlit layer most people picture when they think ocean. Down to about 650 feet. This is where reef squids live, and reef squids are, by every measure, completely unremarkable. They're small, they're quick, they hunt shrimp, and they look exactly like what a squid is supposed to look like. Symmetrical, proportional, inoffensive. This is important context because everything that follows is a departure from this baseline. The deeper you go, the less sunlight penetrates. And the ocean, in response to this, does something strange. It starts rewriting the animals that live in it. Not quickly, not obviously. But layer by layer, the further you descend, the more the creatures stop looking like they belong in the same universe as the reef squid. Squids are particularly vulnerable to this effect, and the reason comes down to one thing: they're soft. No skeleton, no shell, nothing rigid to resist pressure or anchor their shape. That biological flexibility, which makes them incredibly adaptable at the surface, turns them into a canvas that extreme environments sculpt however they want. 650 to 3,300 feet down, the mesopelagic zone. Also called the twilight zone, which is an accurate name because sunlight here is just a faint suggestion, enough to create shadows, not enough to see by. Here the transformation begins, and it starts relatively gently. The firefly squid develops bioluminescence, thousands of light-producing cells across its body that it uses to communicate, attract prey, and potentially confuse predators. It's striking, almost beautiful. Not creepy yet, but already a meaningful departure from anything living above it. Glass squids go further. They've essentially deleted their own pigmentation and become transparent, making their internal organs visible from the outside. The logic is straightforward. If there's no color, there's nothing to cast a shadow. And if there's no shadow, a predator looking up from below sees nothing against the faint light above. Invisibility through absence. But at the bottom of the twilight zone, something shifts. The Humboldt squid enters the picture, and this is where the word creepy starts to apply without qualification. 6 feet long, up to 100 pounds. And it has replaced the suckers on its tentacles with hooks, curved, rigid, designed specifically to tear through flesh rather than grip it. It hunts in coordinated groups, flashing rapid red and white patterns across its skin to communicate during attacks. It actively hunts other squids, including its own species. It moves at 25 miles per hour, which is faster than any human can swim by a significant distance. It is called the Red Devil of the Sea. This is not a dramatic nickname. It is a reasonable description. But here's the thing. The Humboldt squid, the Red Devil, the one with hooks for suckers that hunts in packs and eats its own kind, that's still in the upper portion of the ocean. That's still where light technically exists. What happens in total darkness is a different conversation entirely. Below 3,300 feet, sunlight is gone, permanently. The midnight zone runs from here to around 13,000 feet, and it operates under a completely different set of conditions. Crushing pressure, near-freezing temperatures, and absolute darkness in every direction. Evolution, working with these constraints, produces things that are difficult to look at without some kind of reaction. The Promachothus sulcus, and yes, this animal is real and documented, is a squid with what appear to be human teeth. Rows of them, arranged in a recognizable pattern around its mouth. They are not actually teeth. They are folded lips of soft tissue surrounding the squid's beak, which it still uses for cutting prey. Whether that clarification makes it better or worse is genuinely a matter of personal perspective. Only one specimen has ever been recovered, and it was barely an inch long, which raises the obvious question of what a full-grown adult looks like. That question currently has no answer. At the opposite end of the size spectrum in this zone is the animal most people associate with deep-sea terror, the giant squid. Up to 45 feet long. Eyes the size of dinner plates, the largest eyes of any animal on Earth, a feature that exists because in the midnight zone, the only light sources are bioluminescent creatures, and detecting that faint glow requires the most light-sensitive eyes physically possible. The giant squid is real. It is massive, and for most of recorded history, we knew it existed almost entirely because of sperm whales. Tentacles don't have suckers. They have rotating hooks that drill into flesh and anchor there. Its beak can cut through bone. Its eyes, in larger adults, can reach 11 inches across, potentially larger than the giant squids, making it the only animal that can compete for the title of largest eyes on Earth. If a giant squid and a colossal squid ever encountered each other, which they don't because they occupy different depths, the colossal squid would almost certainly win. Reach and speed versus hooks and mass. Mass wins up close. But even the colossal squid, terrifying as it is not the endpoint. Because below the abyss is one more layer. The hadal zone begins around 20,000 feet and extends to the deepest point on Earth, the Mariana Trench, nearly 36,000 feet below the surface. At this depth, the pressure is over 1,000 times atmospheric. The temperature is barely above freezing. Almost nothing lives here. Almost. The big thing squid exists in the hadal zone. They have thousands of feet to hunt them, and when they surface, their skin carries circular scars from sucker wounds. Their stomachs, when studied, contain giant squid beaks, the only part of a squid that doesn't digest because the beak is hard enough to cut through bone and the stomach simply can't break it down. The giant squid fights sperm whales regularly, and sometimes based on the scarring, it causes real damage. Below 13,000 feet is the abyssal zone, the abyss. A near-featureless expanse of cold, dark water where the pressure is over 600 times what it is at the surface, where the temperature hovers just above freezing, and where almost nothing falls from above except marine snow, the slow, constant drift of dead organic matter from the ocean layers above. Here lives the colossal squid, and despite the naming convention suggesting otherwise, this is an entirely different animal from the giant squid. Different family, different body plan, different hunting strategy. Where the giant squid is long and fast, the colossal squid is a tank, nearly 35 feet but massively built. The heaviest squid ever recorded weighed over 1,000 pounds. And everything about it is wrong in a way that's difficult to describe without seeing it. Its arms extend far beyond its body, proportionally longer than any other squid, and they bend at a sharp elbow midway down before trailing vertically into the darkness below. It doesn't swim, it drifts, motionless, hanging in the dark with its arms spread, waiting. We don't know what it's waiting for. We don't know how big adults get because every specimen ever captured on camera has been a juvenile. We don't know what it eats, how it reproduces, or how many there are. We know it exists because of a handful of seconds of footage taken by deep-sea cameras that were pointed somewhere else and accidentally caught it in the frame. The transparency, the stillness, the elbow-bent arms trailing into nothing. All of it is likely functional. Movement burns energy, and energy is scarce enough at this depth that the big fin has apparently evolved to conserve every calorie by doing essentially nothing. Its transparency, even in a place with no light, protects it from the few bioluminescent predators that do exist down here. So here's the pattern that emerges across all of these animals. The deeper you go, the scarcer the food, the higher the pressure, the colder the temperature. And the more completely isolated from anything resembling the surface world. And squids, because of their biological flexibility, respond to each of these pressures by becoming something progressively further from what they started as. Hooks instead of suckers, eyes the size of plates, teeth that aren't teeth. Arms that trail 20 feet into darkness below a body that hasn't moved in hours. Each adaptation is logical. Each one has a reason. And each one, when you see it in the context of the animal's environment, makes complete sense. That's almost the most unsettling part. These things aren't strange for no reason. They're strange because the deep ocean demanded it, and the deep ocean is very good at getting what it wants. We've explored less than 5% of it. The big fin squid was discovered by accident. The giant squid was confirmed through whale stomachs before anyone ever photographed one alive. Which raises one reasonable question. If the hadal zone produced the big fin, and we've only seen juveniles, what does a full-grown adult actually look like? And what else is down there that no camera has accidentally caught yet? We don't know. And given what we've already found, that might be for the best. If you've enjoyed the video, like and subscribe for more content coming soon. Leave a comment on what you think the squid would look like compared to the tallest building in the world. Catch you on the next one.